Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indie Comics Explained. And again, today I have another fantastic guest. But before we get to him, please hit like, hit subscribe, share the video with your friends, share it with your family, anyone who enjoys comics, let them know. And also, I currently have a Indiegogo running for the Oswald Chronicles. So if you want, please go check that out. That'll help me out. That'll help the channel. So without further ado, here we have Luis M. Cruz. How you doing, Luis?
How you doing, JD? How's it going?
Everything's good, man. Everything's good. Trying not to live the COVID life.
Yeah, it's hard to do nowadays, man.
Seriously, So Luis, let's get right into it, bro. So,
Yes, sir.
So obviously we all get into this when we're kids, collecting comics, whatever, right? Now, but what was the comic? Because I also know you write novels, so it can be either one. So what was either the comic or the novel that inspired you to want to become, to get into this business?
It wasn't so much a comic book or anything. It was gonna be perfectly honest. I wanted to be a cop, and my doctor, because I'm physically disabled, and my doctor told me it's a no, you can't pull the trigger. So he told me, I've seen you drawing and I've seen you writing. You should get into that. But my drawing takes me a lot. It takes me a long time because I write and draw with my mouth. So what I did was I used to sketch it out, and I used to sketch things out, and my doctor loved it, and he said you should go into that, and that's what I did. And then a few years later, when I hit about 17, 18, a friend of mine took me to meet Dennis O'Neil.
Nice.
At DC Comics, and he loved my artwork, but he sat me aside and he told me, your artwork takes too long for you to do it with your mouth, for us to take you on. Love your artwork, but your writing is strong. You should keep up with your writing. And that's what made me do it. Nice. And I've been trying it ever since.
Gotcha. Danny's a cool dude. God rest his soul.
Yes, it's very cool.
Yeah, I sat in. My wife went to School of Visual Arts, and she had 2 semesters with him, and I got to sat in. I sat in on pretty much both of those semesters, because it was a late class and I didn't want her going home alone.
Nice.
So he would let me sit in on the class, so that was interesting. I don't know what I learned, but but it didn't hurt. I know that much.
I feel that art isn't something you can learn. You either with it or I don't know. It's like you're gonna learn something from someone else, but you're gonna learn his style or her style. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
No. I mean, there's definitely credence to that. If you focus too much on one type of style or one type of other style, you never try to focus on yourself and your own style. Because it's easy to get wrapped up on, let's say, somebody with a weird style or idiosyncratic style like H.P. Lovecraft, right?
Yes.
So you see a lot of people, they start out and they start writing and it's like very Lovecrafty, and you're just like, you got to let that go. You got to let that go. Try to find your voice and then adapt what he was doing into your own voice. So yeah, that's the sort of thing I look for. It's just like, it's sometimes hard. So all right, so let's get a little. So as far as your process, like you said, you're handicapped. What do you do as far as constructing a script? Like, how do you work that out?
I punish myself. Usually people write everything on a tablet, iPad, or computer. I do it the old-fashioned way. I write it out on notebook paper, the process, and then from there I'll transfer it over. I look at it as my editing myself. The scenes, taking out a scene, adding a dialogue as I transfer it over to, as I copy it into a tablet or whatever. So my process is a little headache for me because I do it the long way. I can't sit in front of a computer; it just stays blank. If I start, I don't know why, but if I do it on paper, it comes out easier.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, that's cool.
Same thing with the chapters. Same thing with books. I write a chapter, 3 chapters at a time, transfer it over. Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's actually how I work too. I actually write long form. Like I'm literally on the trains going back and forth from work, and I'm writing long form. and then when I'm done with the story, I'll have like 1, 2, 3, however many books it took me to write it in, and then I'll just type it in.
Yeah, it works like that,
Yeah. Because well, I don't know how it works for you, but I know for me, like if I do it on the computer straight, it'll take me longer because I'm sitting there thinking about it, and then you type in a line, and you look at the line, and you're like, hey, oh yeah, I can edit that line.
Yeah,
You're
like you
sitting
can
there
switch
messing
it.
with the line.
Yeah, like you can switch it. You can scratch that off. Yeah, easy.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I could do that, and then by the time you're there 2 hours, you got like a paragraph done. You're like, oh damn, I should have had a lot more done.
And in terms of a script, you sometimes you make something I say a long shot, but then as you're writing it out, when you're typing it up, you'd be like, wait, it doesn't have to be a long shot. It could be a close up of it or something, or you could break that long shot into two scenes. That
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing I wanted to ask you as far as your process. When you write a script, do you like writing it in the Marvel style, which is a little bit looser? You understand? It's like you give your artist descriptions and you let them go their way with it, and then you come and you script it in later. Or do you like to do a more tighter style like DC, where you actually give them a script, where it's like you were talking about, 3/4 worm's eye, that sort of thing with all the dialogue?
Yeah, no, I write the scene out and then the dialogue
Mm.
and everything. Yeah, I describe the scene. Sometimes my scenes are a page long, page and a half. Sometimes it's just 5 sentences with the artist I have. He understands it pretty well. If he doesn't understand it, then I'll give him a reference or I'll sketch something out for him, and he'll go with it.
All right. That's cool. So now, I know you've been working on some stuff. You got some stuff coming out from Darkfire Press, but talk to me about Jennifer the She-Wolf.
Jennifer the She-Wolf. She's interesting. She's a werewolf who was turned. Well, it starts off in 1914. No, yeah, like 88 years ago, and she was turned into a werewolf against her will while traveling home with her husband to pick up her kids, and she was turned into a werewolf against her will. The werewolf takes her to the mansion where he lives and tells her, you can never go back to your children. You will outlive them and forget you have them. And its story jumps from then to now. She's a detective, and there's I have this habit where I in all my stories I try to add a person disabled in it. So in the story in today's time, in the modern day, she defeats these zombies in the street that were an experiment, and she this guy in a wheelchair sees from the window, that what she can do, that she can turn into a werewolf or whatever. He thinks it's a gift. He approaches her throughout the series like, I saw what you are, I saw what you did. Can you make me into what you are? Like that I can walk, perhaps. She convinces him and tells him, no, it's not a gift, it's a curse. I will not be doing that. Now, what she doesn't know is that one of her kids, her daughter, she had 2 of them, a son and a Jennifer had 2 kids, a son and a daughter. Her daughter became a vampire against her will. And the vampire never came back to train her. So she killed her grandmother and her brother to feed. She had no choice. She went ravenous. And she doesn't know that she's alive today. But when she discovers that Jennifer is alive, her mother's alive, and is caring to this guy in a wheelchair, she'll get jealous and wonder why you could be there for him and not for me. Why you couldn't for me, and the trouble starts there. I don't want to give too much away, but that's where it's going.
All right, that sounds awesome. That's a good base.
Thank you.
So I know you sent me a first issue, but I mean, how much longer do you think that particular arc is going to take you?
Yeah, the second issue has taken me long because of the fact that I have these other ideas that I like to bring out. Like, so when I brought out Jennifer, I brought out 5 other comics, #1s that I wanted to have out there that I thought of when I was young. I wanted to see them in print. And then the book that I have, I wrote it back in 2008, but I had submitted it to Darkfire Press, so I was getting that stuff ready and prepared also. So the second issue is about 14 pages in. It should be out before the end of the year.
Okay.
The second issue, and then
Cool. Now, how are you going to release those through Darkfire? Are you doing an Indiegogo, Kickstarter?
No, I self-published that, and I put it through Indie Planet.
Okay.
I put it through Comixology, Amazon, because I created my own little comic company. It's called Cruising Comics because I have a wheelchair that I'm always cruising around in. My last name is Cruz. I'm cruising, and it's got the little wheelchair wheel on fire. So yeah, Cruising Comics.
Yeah. Cruising Comics. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Then you had sent me another book, Bloodkill. That one I didn't get. What was that about? Because I didn't get really the chance to look at that one.
Bloodkill is something I created back when I was about 16, 17 years old. And the influence to that was I love Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe. But what if Snake Eyes was supernatural? And the premise of that is I want to actually introduce him in Jennifer the She-Wolf. He's also a detective like Jennifer, but in another part of town. And what happens with him is that he there's two blood kills. One that was alive centuries ago as a warrior for the devil, or a Satan type person, and he got killed, but the spirit lives on. The spirit finds this detective that was dying on his hospital bed, goes inside him, and becomes this blood kill. He'll confront the body. The body's looking for the soul, and he wants to unite. And that's where I left that off at. It's going to be interesting. That's been my baby since I was like 17. So
yeah. Now, again, like how far do you think that's going to take you? Like, you know,
I only did that as a preview book because I wanted to get people familiar. So when I introduce him in a Jennifer the She-Wolf book, they can always reference that.
Right.
That book. Oh, okay, this is out here. Okay, so he's gonna be introducing Jennifer the She-Wolf soon, very soon.
Cool.
I get the whole world intertwined.
All right, that's awesome. Now with Jennifer the She-Wolf and her story, like, is it like something that you're looking to, like, is it infinite? Like, you know, is it gonna be like Superman should be around forever, or do you consider you have like a finite, like, do you have like an ultimate story that, you know, she's involved in, that, you know, where it ends?
Yeah. I originally wanted to do a 6-issue miniseries, but after writing out the issue breakdowns, it might be 4, maybe 5 issues, and then take a break, and then I want to do a story from her daughter's point of view, what she went through, and bring that out, and then maybe go back into Jennifer the She-Wolf. You know, do a 1-shot or 2-shot of the daughter's point of view, and then come to do another miniseries with Jennifer the She-Wolf. There'll be miniseries. Yeah, I wouldn't want an ongoing thing. It's no.
Yeah, I know.
It's more fun when you write miniseries because you have a beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
And to me, it's more fun that way because you know how it's gonna end, but you never know what's gonna happen in between.
Right. Yeah. Now in comics, like let's roll it back a little bit. So as you talk about your books a little bit, in comics, like what were the books that have been influencing you, as far as, you know, your writing, you know, the types of stories that you're working on?
Claremont's X-Men. Claremont and Jim Lee. There was I never actually liked a horror comic book. Never got into it, but here I am writing something like that.
Right.
I liked Spawn when it first came out. Ghost Rider.
Cool.
Wolverine was always my favorite. And on top of all that was Superman.
Nice.
And the only reason I like Superman is because Superman tries to be something he can never be. Superman tries to be human. He can never be human, but he's always trying.
Right.
And I can relate to that because as growing up, I've always tried to be physically normal, and I've never accomplished that neither. So I can relate to that character.
Right.
So that's my favorite. Yeah.
Cool. Like, I mean, it's funny because I sometimes dog on the character Superman.
I know, I've heard.
Yeah. I like the heart of the character. You understand? Because that's the one thing that I like about him is his earnestness on trying to be pure. You understand? Trying to be the good guy. He's trying to be a hero. Because him and like my two favorite characters are like, well, I got three. I have Thor, Captain America, and Wonder Woman. Those are my three favorites, right?
Right.
So, but with Captain America, for me, he's like Clark Kent. He's like Superman, except he just doesn't have the powers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. He's a goody goody.
Right. That's what he is. He's trying to do the right thing. And that's the one thing I like about both characters. They're just trying to achieve that. The only issue I have with Superman is that he can stand in space and hear all this stuff, but
yes.
there are a lot of things going on in the world that are wrong, but yeah, he can pick out what he wants to hear.
You've ever picked up? Yeah, exactly. You've ever picked up a book called Supreme?
Yes. The Alan
That
Moore?
was the first one, Liefeld.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I have them. I haven't read them in like forever, but
that made Superman look like nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was really, when he did certain things in there that I'm like, oh, he don't care. Superman cares. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was some really good stuff.
Yeah.
So now you're working with Darkfire Press. Now, what are you looking for? What's going to be like your next releases? What are you looking to put out?
In terms of Darkfire Press?
Yeah.
Or in general?
Well, we'll start with Darkfire, then we'll work into general.
Okay. Darkfire Press is I have a book out with them now called The Day They Made Contact, which is a sci-fi novel for young adults. I enjoyed writing it because it was done in 2008 and it got done recently, so it took me a while to get it out there. But I'm writing the sequel to that now as we speak. I'm also, the next one that's coming out from Darkfire Press is more of a children's kind of book, not children so much, maybe between 12 and 16-year-olds, 12 and 18-year-olds.
So
it's
young adults.
Fuel of Life. It's called Fuel of Life, which is what if the premise of that is, what if our blood was used to fuel an alien ship? We called them vampires, but they weren't vampires. They needed our blood to escape, and we hunted them down to extinction.
Right.
And now there's this meteor coming, which is a piece of their planet that broke off, and they managed to shape it into a little meteor that's going to collide with us on this. We make peace with each other. We travel up there, and these creatures come alive up there. We don't know them. They live up there. These creatures come alive, and they start using us to change course. But they'll always orbit our planet for food, for fuel and harvest.
All right, that's cool. Now the other one, The Day They Made Contact. What's that one about?
The Day They Made Contact is my current book, and that's basically about a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid. You ever, the Roswell incident? You ever heard of that?
Yeah, of course.
What if they came back, and what if they discovered that we killed these aliens that came? And the story, there's these aliens coming here. They're called the Dracolamax, and there's a female in there, a female lady disguising herself as one of them. Her name is Ubrago, and she befriends this kid. After the government says, yeah, you can go visit families to get acquainted with humans. She visits this kid, her and another alien, and the kid comes home. His name is Jason. Jason comes home. He's sick with a stomach ache. She asked the mother's permission to go upstairs, and she could probably heal him. And she's disguising herself holographically to look like the alien race that came to make contact with us, but she's not. Her species was actually slaves to them, and they fought for independence. And they worried they're going to do the same thing to humans. So as she's healing him, he could see right through the hologram. And the premise of that story is, with every touch these two, the human child and the alien, give each other, they'll form like a mother-son bond. And at the end of the story, he'll gain a certain ability, and she'll gain an ability also, which I don't want to give away. But let's just say that species gives birth to themselves every 90 years. Something happens that I can't. Yeah.
Don't want to divulge. I get it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. No, it sounds awesome. So When you're actually writing, right? Like as far as your process, yeah, I mean, obviously you say you write in pencils, well, you write on a pad and then you transfer it. But are you do you do a heavy like are you a plotter or a pantser? So do you sit down and write out a plot first for yourself, or do you just sit down and just go?
I sit down and just go, and what I'll do is I'll write maybe a plot for the first two chapters,
Mm-hmm.
and then I follow that plot, and then take a break, go back and do another one chapter or two chapter plot, and then yeah, I look at it as mini book reports. What's going to happen in these three chapters, two chapters that I need to explain, that I need to write,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I do it. And then, but then at the end, this is the problem I have. I hate writing what the book is actually about. The back jacket part. I
I don't know.
hate writing those
I
things.
don't know anyone that likes that stuff. Yeah.
Oh
Copy.
man, it's like writing a book report. I hated writing book reports.
Yeah.
So it takes me a while to get comfortable writing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I have another story where you ever heard that you can never find the beginning or ending of a rainbow?
No.
If it lands, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you can never see the beginning or ending of a rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one lands in the backyard of this kid who's handicapped playing chess with his doctor in his backyard. Something grabs him as he goes for a closer look with his motorized chair. Something grabs him, pulls him in. And when he wakes up, his chair's like 30 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
He's never walked. But all of a sudden, his hands are normal. His legs can move, but he still can't stand up. It's like a baby when they first learn to walk, they take 2 steps, fall.
Right.
He does that a couple of times. So he decides to crawl to his wheelchair, stand up, and falls. And he hears laughter coming from one of the bushes, and he sees the bushes are like 70 yards away. He sees what he thinks is a monkey. It's not. It's this 16-foot Bigfoot. Grabs him, pulls him up to a tree, and tells him, "Shh, I need you to be quiet. Something is chasing you." And I wrote 3 chapters of that. And the premise to that is that it's called a rainbow, but not RAINBOW,
Right.
RIGN, because he will reign over the land of Bo. He came from that. He came from that world, and he was cursed when he was a prince, and he was cursed while transferring to our world. You have to be born from a woman here, but he was cursed to be handicapped here. But in that world, he's physically normal. And at the end, he's going to have to decide, does he want to stay there and be normal, or does he want to come back with his parents? So yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That sounds awesome. So are you looking to write that in prose, or are you looking to make that into a comic book?
Not a comic book. No, not prose. Yeah,
prose.
Because I wrote it out. I wrote out 3 chapters of it already, so I know it's and I've given it out to people, and they'll be like, "Yo, where's the rest of it? I want the rest of it."
Right.
No, not yet.
Now, as far as the process with the prose, so you're already 3 chapters in. Like how much time do you think it's going to take you to fully develop it?
Every time I want to get into that, I always think of another idea, like another story. Like I wanted to sit down and write that, and I started writing chapter 4 of that. But then the back of my mind's like, "Hello, I'm here," which is the female character, Alien Obrago. It's like, I'm here, and all these ideas started flooding me. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to sit down and write her, because if not, she's gonna bother me. She's gonna bother me. It's like the characters are inside me, No, that's weird, but yeah.
No, I know exactly.
The government is gonna give me another check.
Yeah. but I know exactly what you mean by that, though.
Yeah, like you could hear the characters sometimes as a writer.
Yeah. They start to nag at you.
Yes.
They nag at
you. You start writing out dialogues that they would say. You don't know when they're going to say it, but you know they're going to say it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I've been there plenty of times. I know exactly what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah. You can get a little disconcerting. You're sitting there going, "Hey, am I crazy?"
Yeah. No, you know what's even crazier? When I write it and I read it out loud to myself and I get into the character, that's crazy.
Right. Well, but that's part of it. I mean, that's just releasing, that into the world. You got to get over it. Now, with your editing process, so let's say after you've written it, right, for your first draft, right? So what do you do at that point? So you wrote it. It's your first draft though, so you know you got to go through it again.
I don't. I hand it off to somebody else to do it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I will never edit my own work because I know I'm biased to it. So I'll hand it off to someone, and she'll take care of that.
Right.
Yeah, because I'll go crazy. It's like you having a child and you tell them you got all these toys, but now you can't play with this one, you can't play with that one, and it's gonna bother me. And I'm taking all these wonderful toys away. So
okay, that's interesting. My process is a little different. I'll take my stuff, I'll write it, and I'll set it to the side for at minimum 2 weeks, but I've done it for as long as 6 months. And then I'll come back to it with fresh eyes. And then I'll take a nice red pen and I go to town.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I can't do that. It bothers me. You know what's sad? For The Day They Made Contact, the sequel that I'm writing, when I first wrote that story, I had a whole notepad of notes for the second one.
Right.
To this day, I don't know what the hell happened to that notepad. So all the ideas are fresh in my head. I'm like, I wrote this in 2008. I hope I can remember the majority. If not, then that means I got new ideas for it. Probably it's meant for me to have those old ideas.
Yeah.
But man, I was like, damn, if somebody could run me over with my own wheelchair, I would do
it. So why did I do this to myself? Yeah.
And I know I'm gonna find it after I write it. I know I am. It's gonna come up.
Get the bottom of some trunk somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I have. Have you ever written something down, right? Like an idea for a story, maybe 1 or 2 pages, and then it found it like 4 years later, and then you look at it, you're like, what the hell is this? I don't remember writing this, but you see it's in your handwriting. You're like, Does that ever happen to you?
I've done that, and I'm like, I've written it, and I'm like, wow, did this come out of my head? Because it's pretty good. What is this? Yeah, like I did that with a story one time of these 2 friends. They grew up together, and they're best friends. One grows up to be a priest. The other one goes to join the military. The highest point is in the military that he could, which is finding out government secrets like UFOs. The priest was a big UFO fan when he was young. Sitting down on a bench, and the military guy confesses to the priest everything that he knows, so that he can know that what he always thought of is true, is real. Right. And the priest can't say nothing. It's under confession. So, and I wrote that out, and I read it. I put it away, and I found it years later. I'm like, this is actually pretty freaking cool. I can actually continue with this if I want to.
Yeah. No.
And then I have this other idea where, what if this is my religious aunt in my mind, what if they clone Christ in today's time? But he's born, he has all these nightmares growing up of him being crucified and all that stuff.
Right.
But he doesn't know what he is. But he knows that he's escaping this facility, and throughout the story he can heal certain people or whatever. He can do certain gifts. He doesn't know what he is. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know. His name is Joshua. He doesn't know that he's a clone of Christ, but now the government is chasing him. And the government wants him back. I have all these wonderful ideas that I just want to, put out there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, you just got to keep plugging at it, man. It's hard. It takes forever, but you just got to keep doing it.
Yeah. I just got to learn how to stay focused on one thing.
That helps.
Yeah.
The best piece of advice that I've heard was finish what you start.
Yes. Yeah, I've been doing it. I looked at it as a treat. Finish what you start, so like that you can start on the next one. It's like finish your plate of food and you can have the dessert. Right. That's the way I've been looking at it lately.
Yeah.
Because the Fuel of Life was written at the same time as the Day They Made Contact. In chapter 16, I had to put that aside and tell this story.
Right.
And then go back into The Day They Made Contact.
Ooh. Now, when you're writing prose versus comics, which are obviously 2 different things, So the process is a little different, similar but different. Which process do you like better, or which finished product do you like better?
I like the prose,
Mm.
and I'm gonna tell you why. Prose with the script form that you're writing the scene and then the dialogue. I don't know if it happens to you. Sometimes the dialogue doesn't come out as fluently as you want it to.
Mm.
Sometimes you need to think about it, and then when you write it down, you be like, "Now this isn't something the character would say. It doesn't sound like the character." So
Mm.
you sit there for a while and you think. Whereas when you write prose and you're writing out the scene and you're writing out, what the character is going to say, it comes out, but you don't have to worry about that to the edits. You don't have to worry about that. That's for you.
Mm.
With the script, if you're doing it and you got to give it to the artist at a certain amount of time, then you got to worry about that right there on the spot because you're gonna forget. I have a problem where I'm gonna forget it. Okay, this is the scene, but what was I gonna say for that character?
Mm.
Whereas when I write a prose, I know what I'm gonna say because I know what I already um, built it up to.
Right.
So I don't know if it makes sense, but
No,
yeah,
it does. It does.
yeah.
It does. Because all right, and here's the other one. Um, well, no, it's the same damn question. So, so my other question was now, obviously, you know how it is. I mean, we're combo guys. Obviously, we have a lot of influences. Now, we spoke about your comic book influences. Who are the influences on you as far as your prose writing? Like, what authors do you look up to?
I love Isaac Asimov.
Mm-hmm.
I love. You're gonna think this is weird, but Timothy Zahn from the Star
Okay.
Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I liked him. Stephen King. Stephen King. I like him. I look up to him. I respect him, but I respect him in terms of where he was and where he's at now.
Mm-hmm.
His storytelling is, for me, uh, I love the books. It just doesn't scare me. The movies scare me, but the
Mm-hmm.
books I can just be like, oh no, I'm not reading this no more. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no.
Right, right.
And yeah, stuff. I like those type of influences.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one that I liked. Uh, well, George Lucas is a big influence for me, but I don't. He doesn't. He wrote a book that I have though,
Mm-hmm.
which was cool. I forget the name of it, but yeah, yeah,
Gotcha.
that's about it.
Yeah. What's funny is I've only ever read one Stephen King novel, and
Really,
it's his How to Write novel.
I got that,
Yeah.
and I loved it because it was like it wasn't it wasn't like other writers who write stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was actually like he was talking to you, like it was like everyday language. He wasn't using these other words. No, he was. Listen, I picked it up one afternoon. By the time I knew it, I was in like 10 chapters in already. I was like, "Yo, this is
Mm-hmm.
hot." I liked it. I loved it.
No, no, it's an
Yeah.
excellent book. I tell anyone, like, if
Yes.
you're a beginning writer, I tell everybody read that book. Because one thing it taught me was the part of it that he really taught me. He says, listen, that first draft is for you.
Yes.
Put everything in it. Put everything in it. Because this is where I was telling you, I take out the red pen afterwards. Because you put in, I just put it all in there, but then, sometimes you got to make those hard decisions afterwards. So.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Those hard decisions. And you know what I find too? When you write that first draft, sometimes what you take out, you can use later on
Mm-hmm.
for notes in a sequel or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
but they don't call it murdering your children for nothing.
it's true. It's
Yeah.
very
You
true.
know. So all right. So let's wow. So when do you expect the second issue of Jennifer to drop? Because I know you mentioned it's almost done. You're working on it, but when do you expect it to drop?
Um, I'm gonna give it the most probably December.
Mm.
Which, if it's ready for December, I'm just gonna hold on to it. Christmas season is always a bad time to
Yeah.
come up with, so I'll
Mm.
probably wait till February to come out with it.
Gotcha.
And what I'll do is I'll put probably pages of the upcoming novel, the upcoming issue, the third issue in it also, like black and white. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Now, when you're working with your artists, are you sending them a full script? Are you sending them like a couple pages at a time? How are you working that?
Well, he works on his own stuff over there as well. He works on his own stuff over there, and because he's from Spain, so he's got his he's working on his own stuff currently. So what I'll do is I'll send him 2 pages, 4 pages at a time. Send it back to me, and he's pretty quick with it though. If I sent him something today, then within 2 weeks I'll have, the first week I'll have the pencils, the second the inks, and then the third week I'll have everything done. The lettering, I usually wait till the whole thing is done, or at least half of it. Like I got more to send to the letterer right now, but I'll hold off.
Gotcha.
In case I change the dialogue.
Right. Yeah. Because I know my wife. I letter I do 2 titles. I do the Oswald Chronicles and I do Tall Tales. My wife letters Tall Tales because that's the one she's drawing. But I letter the Oswald Chronicles, and as I letter, I'm literally making changes right as I go, because you just make edits. You're just like,
Exactly.
This sounds better. This sounds better than this. All right, so we'll go with that.
Exactly.
But I know when I read Tall Tales, I get that first. She does that first printout, and I'm reading it. And I'm sitting there with the little red pen. I could just see her just getting angry. I could just see her. Like, I was like, well, let me do this tonight, and I'll just leave it on your desk in the morning for you to fix. And
dinners in your house must be interesting.
Well, we don't eat together, so I get to avoid that. But it is what it is. You want to make a good product. You want the story to be good, so you gotta do what you gotta do. Now, the pros. So, Fuel of Life. That's the one you're working on, or is that one did it drop, or is it dropping soon?
The Fuel of Life should be dropping soon from Dark Fire Press.
Okay, cool.
I have there's an issue of it out now, but it's not going to be like the one I'm handing Jay. The cover is different. It's going to be different material cover. Yeah, it's going to reach a broad audience in the Cruising Comics version, and it's not even a prose book all the way. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's with every page you turn, it's going to have illustration, colored illustration with prose.
Okay.
So that's why I aimed it for early teens. Maybe 11, 12, all the way up to like maybe 18-year-olds or older. That's where I'm at.
All right, cool. Now, what do you think is going to be the word count on that? Like, is it going to be like 60,000 words, 40,000 words?
No, it's not a long story. It's not it's in terms of pages, it'll probably be 50 or less pages altogether.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't want to make it long because again I aimed it for young readers, and I didn't want to, like, for example, the prose the day they made contact. I as a child I didn't like long chapters. Those chapters like 20 pages in, I hated those. So I promised myself that if I ever wrote a book, it would be between 7 to 10 pages. There's maybe 1 chapter in there or 2 that's 15 pages long. But other than that, out of the 23 chapters that's in it, those 2 are the only ones that are 15 and better. But no, I don't like making long, because long chapters to me used to bore me after a while. But short chapters, I look at it as writing mini stories that lead up into the end. That's the way I look at it.
Gosh, yeah. You got to keep you keep the story popping. It's just like constantly cycling through. So yeah, no, that's cool. Let me see, where else can we go? And then you were saying that you might have some other stuff coming out aside from Dark Fire Press. You have some other stuff coming out?
Yeah, I have a book called Alpha. It's funny, I look up because I have them hanging on my wall. The books I have, it's out now. Alpha. It's written in the same length as Bloodkill.
Okay.
It's just to introduce the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a book called I don't know if I should tell you this. I wrote an erotic story from a
Okay.
handicap's point of view,
Mm-hmm.
in the same style as Fuel of Life, where every page has an illustration with the words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm an old school pornographer. It's okay.
But yeah, I wrote that out. That's gotten a lot of positive things from it, and it's crazy
Okay.
because a lot of my friends like, did you just write this about you? I'm like, no, I don't kiss and tell, but I'll write
Mm-hmm.
about it, but I don't kiss and tell.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Best. Yeah. There's some secrets best kept secret.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But they
Yeah.
all want to know if it's me. I'm like, no,
Mm-hmm.
it's not me. No.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. That's the one thing a lot of people get confused. They think the author when they write something is always about them. It says no, we're constructing stories, we're constructing characters.
Exactly.
Not all, no two buildings are alike.
What about you? Anything else after these two titles?
Well, the thing is that what I'm working on, Tall Tales. All right, we have an omnibus that's 20 issues long. Okay. Then we have the second arc we're working on now, which is which is going to be 8 issues. And then we have a third arc, which is going to happen after this arc. Originally, I was looking at 30 issues, but I actually want to finish it, so it'll probably be 12. So I cut that back a bit. But that's going to probably be another 10 years.
Really?
Oh, yeah. My wife, she works at her pace, and I'm like, that's fine. Because I'll write them. I handed her issues 1 through 8 in one chunk. I said, here you go. But it took me a couple years to get that done because I was working on other stuff. But I said, here you go. And, she's been working on that for about 3 years now.
Okay.
So she works at her pace. I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, Tall Tales is hers. I mean, it's ours, but it's hers. It's like once I hand it over, that I'm like, okay, let me just walk away. That's why you'll never see a guest cover. So that's hers.
And she's the letterer, right?
Yeah, she does the lettering.
Who's your anchor and
Oh no, she does everything.
Oh, she does everything else, the coloring, the inking.
Yeah, she does the coloring, the inking. She well, the books are right now they're all in black and white. But she's talking about coloring, and I'm like, okay, all right, here we go.
No, but I'm saying the covers, she colors the covers.
Yeah. She does all that stuff herself. Yeah. She has trust issues.
Well, if she colors them, that's going to be interesting because you could actually pull out another omnibus and just change. You can actually change the covers on them.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And then the Oswald Chronicles, and where do I even begin? Have you ever had a story, right? Oswald was supposed to be for me, my crypt keeper. Okay. He was supposed to be the character that tells the stories, right? But what happened was he came out and he said, "Nah, the story's about me. Don't worry about it. Yeah, the story's about me." So it got weird because the more I wrote it, the more it became about him. So the story just ended up focusing on him. But the problem is that I started the story in the middle. So I had to go back and I've written. So now I'm just, as my friend would tell me, I'm the master of nonlinear storytelling. So what I would do is I wrote the story in the middle, then I would write something from earlier in his life, and then I would jump all the way into the future, and I would write a section from there, and I would jump around his timeline. Now I'm just filling it all in. That's my job now. So yeah, that's my job right now. I'm just filling it all in. I have a chart. Literally, I'm looking over it. I have a chart, and it's like, okay, I'm ticking off the stories, filling it in.
Okay.
And it started off as prose, but I turned it over into a comic book, and now I'm primarily writing it as a comic book. So, and I'm already 1,000 pages into that.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
How do you feel about killing characters off?
Like
I have a problem with that.
Really? Yeah, like.
But
See, it depends. Well, yeah. I mean, it depends. Like, as long as it's not done superfluously, like you're not doing it for any other reason than just to do it. If there's a reason behind it, I don't have a problem with it. But it has to just make sense.
Cool.
You know. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is for me. Like, it has to make sense. You know. But yeah, that's like I said, I've done it. I'll do it. I'll do it again. But it's gonna have like I said, it's gonna have to make sense for me. So
Okay.
yeah. I mean, so what's your problem with it?
My problem? No, I don't have a problem. The only problem I have is I get too attached to characters.
Right.
But then when I kill them off, it's like I have this God issue. I feel like I'm God.
Right.
I created you. I can take you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hear my mother's background. My mother in the background. I made you. I can take you out. That
Yep.
type of thing.
Yeah.
But I just wondering how other people felt about killing characters off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. It's yeah. I know that. Yeah. My mother used to say the same thing to us. I guess it runs through all Hispanic families.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hold on a second. I'm just.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man. I mean, but yeah, I know what you mean by growing attachment. I think also the thing that affected me seriously growing up is that I grew up reading comic books, right? And how often do you see a character die in a comic book? You know what I mean? I mean, it's rare, right?
And then they never stay dead,
right? Yeah, the death of Captain Marvel,
yeah,
which was a big thing. Knocked off Captain Marvel, and I don't know if you ever read the book, but he does a really good job. Excellent book, right? There's the death of Phoenix, right? Classic, yeah, and I know, John Byrne, Chris Claremont, and the editor, had a huge, blow up over as to whether or not she dies, and I can understand that because Jim Shooter was like, nah, she got to go.
Yeah. I recently saw that. There's a thing on Netflix I saw, or Amazon Prime, something like that.
Yeah, probably Prime, yeah. But yeah, she's like, no, she got to go, and I was just like, wow. But
that was sad.
Yeah, but I mean, it worked out, and like you said, it's not like they stayed dead for long.
They don't.
No, they don't.
And the only one that stayed dead and not even was Bucky.
Right.
And I think he's back, isn't he?
Yeah, they brought him back. He's a Winter Soldier.
Yeah, exactly. He's back. Yeah.
Yeah, he's back. All right. So we've been at this for a little while. Mm-hmm. So we're coming close to the end, but we're not at the end just yet. All right. So I got a few more questions for you. So Luis, before we move on to that one, please let everybody know where they can find your work and where they can pick it up and buy it.
They can find my work at darkfirepress.com. My book is there. You can also find me on Indie Planet under Cruising Comics. You can also find me on Amazon under Cruising Comics too, or the individual book name, and they'll come up. And you can find it there. Mostly digital copies on Amazon, Indie Planet, both digital and print.
Cool.
And with Darkfire Press, it has links to different booksellers like Barnes & Noble and Walmart. You can find my books there.
All right. Cool. And then I'll also have that stuff in the show notes.
Okay, right. Cool.
So, all right. Next, is there anything you wanted to talk about or address, or is there a question I didn't ask you that you wanted to be asked?
No, we pretty much covered everything. If you have a disability and you feel you want to do something with yourself, don't let it stop you. Just go for it. That's what I did. I went for it and I haven't looked back. And I still want to go forward. So just go forward. If you're, yeah, that's it. Sorry.
All right, cool. No, that's awesome. Because, I mean, we do share one disability, that we have this common thing. And if anybody else hears these voices in their heads, write them down on the paper. Trust me.
Yeah, you're not crazy. You're not crazy.
Exactly. Write them down.
If you answer your own questions, then you're crazy.
Right. Well, within the context of the story. You got to do what you got to do.
Exactly.
Right? All right. So now I got some of these goofy questions I like to ask. So check it out. So let's say, well, for your books, we'll go with that. Like who? We'll do the comics and we'll do the novels.
Okay.
Like, so these beautiful painted covers. Is there any particular artist that you would either, they could be living, dead, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about budget. Who would you want to get to paint a cover for one of your novels?
Either Alex Ross or Joe Jusko.
Gotcha.
So you said paint, right?
Yeah, paint. Yeah, sweet. Because it's for novels. Because
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
one of those two.
Yeah, like I said, I'm old, so I remember there used to be a time I used to be able to walk into a bookstore, right, when we had a lot of them, and there were just all these beautiful painted covers,
Yes.
Whereas now you got like somebody just grab a crappy flower or butterfly and they'll slap it on the cover, and some text. So there you go. It's like
that's it. It's over.
Yeah, exactly. It's some Photoshop stuff.
That's what you're getting. That's it.
Yep. So yeah. But all right, cool. Alex Ross, Joe Jusko. Yeah, man, those are solid picks. Now, so let's say you got the call up from the big companies. Oh no, wait a second. Hold on. We didn't answer the second half. And for your comic book, if you could choose a comic book artist to draw a cover for your book, who would you pick?
Jim Lee or Todd McFarlane.
Okay. Cool.
I'm a huge both. I actually gave Todd McFarlane a ride on one of my wheelchairs at the Comic-Con.
Really?
Yeah, he sat on there and drove around the Comic-Con, yeah. Real down to earth. Ever since then, every time I go to Comic-Con, he remembers my name, lets me skip the line, we talk. He's real cool.
Oh, that's
I got a bunch of signatures from
him. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've always heard he's been cool. I've always heard he's a cool dude. Because like I've seen him interviews, and you can just see how intense he is.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's awesome. It's always nice to hear things like that.
Yeah.
All right. So now for the next question. Let's say if you got the call up from the big companies, when they said, Louis, whatever you want, whoever you want, who would you write? What character, group, whatever, would you pick to write for one of these companies?
If it's Marvel, I have a one-page pitch of a Star Wars, and it's basically, you remember the first episodes 1, 2, and 3. Mace Windu out the window.
Right.
What if he landed on top of a speeder and survived? And then what if 5 years later, 10 years later, all these Jedis are being killed? One of them he hears running, and it's his little boy, and he tries to help this Jedi survive. And since his hand is cut off, he managed to put the lightsaber through the wound that he got cut, so it's actually inserted in his arm. The lightsaber. It's I got sketches of it and everything.
Right.
And I would like to write that for Marvel. DC, I have this really cool, again, one-page synopsis that Batman is sitting in a dark room, a mental Arkham Asylum. It's not really Batman, it's Bruce Wayne. Right. And in his mind, the reason why he can never catch the Joker is because they both live in his mind. He's both characters.
Right.
So this is why he can never catch one or the other. Bruce Wayne. But the readers won't find out that he's Bruce Wayne until the end of the book. But yeah, that's always been my dream to do that. Right. I write a one-page graphic novel of that hardcover. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that is. Take that up to those editors out there, bro. You go to shows. You go to the big shows.
Yeah.
Go talk to them.
They're not even in New York no more, man.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
they're not even in New York no more.
That's true.
But I would never want to work for the big two, though. I'd rather work for Dark Horse or Valiant. Always wanted to do something with Valiant. I'm a big X-Men War fan. Something could be done with that. But what would happen if he met a Predator? Yeah, that'd be dope. But now Predator and Aliens, they belong to Marvel, so they'll be fighting Wolverine or
Yeah.
Or the X-Men or something. Lord knows what.
Yeah, because they're part of the Fox family, so they're moving.
Yeah.
You know, Disney owns it all. So
Spider-Man versus aliens.
yeah. Spider-Man versus a Predator.
Yeah, that'll be
Or maybe Craven. I think Craven versus a Predator. That might be interesting. The two hunters.
That would be interesting. Yeah, that actually would work.
Yeah, that would be
Black Panther.
Black Panther. Yeah,
One lands in Wakanda. Different world right there.
It's true. All right, cool. So now I got some other questions for you. So these are comparatives. All right. So we'll go with the easy ones first, and then we'll work our way up to some of the crazy ones. Not that crazy. Okay. My two go-to: Captain America or Batman.
Batman.
Okay. Why?
Got the cool gadgets. Okay. He got a car. Captain got to walk everywhere.
Got a Quanjet.
You got to get from Tony Stark.
Well, yeah, you know. Yeah. You guys are billionaire. What do you want? Godzilla or Gamera?
Godzilla.
Okay. Cool. Kirby or Stan Lee?
Kirby.
Okay. Why?
Stanley was a writer.
Mm-hmm.
He was the artist. To me, the artist tells more than the writer. Stanley would just write the dialogue, and that's not big to do.
All right. Fair enough. The Fifth Element or Stargate?
Stargate.
Really? Okay. Why?
The Fifth Element to me was not that cool. Okay. Stargate has more of a nice little. I like stories like, for example, it opened up in Egypt. You talking about the movie or the series? The movie, right?
I was talking the movies. Yeah.
Yeah. It opened up in Egypt. It gave it that. It's a possibility type thing. You know, it could have happened like that. You know, stories like that always intrigue me. Yes, the Fifth Element touched on it a little bit, but it didn't go deep into it.
Yeah. Gotcha. You mean you didn't buy Bruce Willis as a cab driver in the future?
No.
That's fine. Hercules or Xena?
Hercules.
Really? Why?
He's a god. Well, half god.
Demigod.
Xena was just a screamer.
Okay, gotcha. Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers?
Myers.
Okay. I can take that. John Byrne or George Perez?
Sheesh. I'm gonna go with George.
Okay. George has been winning a lot of those.
Yes. George Perez is the man.
No, he really is.
Yes.
Let's see. I ask you a couple more of these, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure.
Harry Potter or Narnia?
Harry.
Okay. Why?
I used to work with children in an after-school program, and I told myself I would never ever read a book that had it. But one time I was in the office, and there was a book that apparently had the cover torn off, and I wanted to know what it was. So I caught myself reading it, and by the time I put it down, I was up to chapter 8. And I was like, oh, hell no, this is Harry Potter. I didn't even realize what it was. So, and then when the movie came out, forget it, it was eye candy. It was like, to me, it was eye candy. So Harry.
Gotcha. Do you watch anime, manga?
Not much. No, the last thing I watched was Vampire D.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We'll stay away from those questions then.
Thank you.
Next gen or DS9?
Next gen.
Okay. Fair enough. We'll finish with this. Claremont or Wolfman?
Claremont.
Okay.
I love his writing.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. See, we made it. Made it to the end.
Cool.
Cool. So thank you, Luis. And one more time, let everybody know where they can find your work.
Digital prints, digital downloads. I mean, Amazon and Indie Planet. Indie Planet also has physical copies. Darkfire Press for my novel and my upcoming novel. And also Jennifer the She-Wolf is also on Comixology, #1. So
all right,
just look at the names, Cruz and Comics, or the individual names, and they should come up.
All right, cool. Awesome. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, JD. Thank
You're welcome. So please hit like, hit subscribe, let everybody know that we're here. Check out my Indiegogo. Check out Luis's books. Go pick up some awesome content, and I'll be talking to you guys later. Thank you so much, and have a good night.
Good night.